Ni hao, annyeong, hello, I am the Dark Fae, and welcome back to Confessions of a First-Time Dungeon Master. As always, if you missed the last session, I'll put a link to it up in the corner for you over here. You can go check it out, catch up on what you missed, then come back here to find out what happened next. We are now on session 57, so let's begin. Okay, so with the party now kind of here at the hag's abode and having a few of them having made some deals, they're kind of just hanging out waiting. So Basil casts his tiny hut so that they have like a little protected shelter, which is not soundproof, but they kind of huddle inside and kind of discuss a little bit about like what they want to do next, and discuss a little bit further about like the relationship between Criella or Little K and Wistria, Big W, as with Asmodeum, Basil's like mentor. After a little bit of discussion and talk about that, which I hope they will do more of because it's a complicated situation that doesn't really have a set answer. It's really kind of up to the party to decide, but like who to trust and like what to do. But after like 30-40 minutes of them talking and like waiting, Babasindra comes out of the hut motioning for Kren to come forward and gives him his instructions to help with the ritual, since he promised he would. And basically she tells them that there's a settlement about 3 to 4 hours hike from here, and that she needs him to go and retrieve a Goliath child, preferably female, close as you can get to like the body that he's trying to bring back, his wife. To which Kren, very displeased, the party, both in and out of character, surprised and horrified, which is what I was going for. And Kren, who I guess has like a code of honor, basically kind of demands like, what are you talking about? Which, like, we already made our deal. And to which Babasindra replies that we did, and this is like what she needs for the magic that she has to do, and that he agreed to help without asking what that help or what that magic even entailed. So there's that. The party wants no part of it. Kren also kind of refuses to do so, to which Babasindra's not very pleased about them refusing, but I mean, the deal has been made, and if they don't want to follow through, it's going to take another deal or some sort of payment in order for Babasindra to let them go. So eventually they kind of come to an agreement that a different body, like an adult body, will potentially work. It will make the magic trickier and less stable, and basically like, because more of like the sacrifice's life has been used up, it will mean that the amount of life that his wife, when she's brought back, has will be shortened. So if he can live with taking away the potential years that she has, then fine, Babasindra will agree to it. So, but because they did not readily agree, Babasindra does not offer them her help, but only instructs Kathan to kind of guide them and keep an eye on them so that they don't try to run. So they go traipsing off into the mountains, Kathan guiding them to the settlement, and Kren's very adamant that he will not harm an innocent life. So they kind of come up with like a plan, an idea to ask if the settlement has any criminals lately, somebody that they could, you know, execute for them, which is not really a thing Or like maybe they're a settlement of bandits and like bad guys, but they're kind of just a remote village of like a few families. Like there's several Goliath families, a few half-orcs, one like Lone Firbolg, a couple dwarves, that are all kind of just surviving up there in the mountains in this remote location, kind of as like forming their own kind of little tribe. So Basil and Kren go up to the gates, and as a remote kind of small little settlement, they're pretty suspicious of outsiders. So a few guards kind of meet them at the gates, and then once they explain that, or once Basil and Kren kind of explain that they're looking for work, like as executioners, if there's anyone who's committed a crime lately, like the village kind of chief comes out to talk to them, but kind of in keeping with the Goliath traditions that Kren is familiar with, if any kind of crime is committed in the settlement, they tend to handle it on their own, whether it's the punishment may be expulsion or, you know, taking a limb or death, it depends, but they tend to be pretty good about taking care of it, and the settlement has been there like long enough that they aren't really like at odds with each other. There are maybe like rival settlements, other camps and villages like throughout the mountains, but they don't know how far away that is, and Babasindra actually did give them a timeline to be back before nightfall. So they have like less than a day to find a criminal Goliath traipsing around the mountains, which you're not really gonna find. So with that information and kind of decline, and kind of them declining the group's offer to work, they return back to Cathan, who kind of stayed outside the village a little ways. And Cathan, they notice, is actually speaking to three figures kind of clad in dark leathers and dark robes that they recognize as Grimknife agents, and kind of creeping closer, eavesdropping a little. Cathan kind of holds up a hand to ensure that everything is okay. Basically, the agents are here to assess whether or not Cathan is a liability to them now that he's essentially like defected, since he still knows kind of like their secrets and like their teleportation circles, stuff like that. Cathan understands, but also warns them that Babasindra is an incredibly powerful figure, and that because he is now under her employ, it may not be worth it, or may be difficult for them to dispose of Cathan without making an enemy of Babasindra, and then knowing who Babasindra serves, which is Wystria, goddess of madness, they would then have like two enemies on two fronts. Wystria kind of from the north, or Babasindra under Wystria from the north, and Sincain as well to the southwest, which would not be the best situation for them right now. So that's a bit up in the air. But after conversation, the agents kind of disappear, you know, into the woods, and Cathan returns with them to Babasindra's hut. And as they walk back, actually, Cathan kind of shares his story a little bit of what happened to him and what deal he made. Basically, when he was a Grimknife agent, or like initiate, he had a best friend who he kind of went through like the ranks and like the initial trials with, and when they both became like Grimknife agents, basically on a mission, his best friend died, and Cathan felt that it was he was the one responsible. And so as he like continued up the ranks, he could always feel that there was like a very empty kind of space by his side where his friend should be. And so when he sought out Babasindra, he was actually trying to help with Basil's ring, but then she kind of got under his skin, and he was kind of coerced into making this deal. Once they returned Babasundra's hut empty-handed, she notices this and invites Kren inside. Basil tags along as like support, maybe to help smooth talk things, and what happens next doesn't go well. Babasundra basically says that she cannot and will not complete her ritual without the body. Kren adamant about not harming an innocent. So now they're at a bit of an impasse. So basically Babasundra is demanding either another deal be made to get him out of the one that he wants, or basically if he leaves, like, or if he decides to leave, she will take something from him. Which point, Kren, not happy, he takes his axe and hacks at the door, which is magically shut. So immediately the hut reacts, and from kind of like the wooden walls and the floors, like the wood kind of like extends and grows like these branches to restrict him, to keep him from attacking again. At which point Basil kind of panics a bit, and he grabs Kren, casts Dimension Door out of the hut, and they take off running. With Tyrell kind of follows suit. It was a bit loosey-goosey with the time because Cathan because Valhyrie's like, well, what about my deal? I was like, it just like inserted Cathan would have told that like her deal is still valid. It's just like Kren's that has currently fallen through. So she, Ivar, and Umric stay put. Basil, Tyrell, and Kren take off running into the grove, which is now not very welcoming. So the trees kind of animate and start swinging at them. There is also lots of brown mold that kind of actually is peppered along the trees and such, and so they take cold damage as well as they run through the forest. I run through this grove, eventually reaching the outskirts. So at this point, it's like, well, if they decide they don't want to go back, I get to have some fun with curses. But in the meantime, Babasundra takes about like an hour to finish Valhyrie's potion. Although I should have really played this a little bit more to like take like Valhyrie's blood or like something from like her hometown to brew it, because it doesn't make sense that she would be able to make this potion without something like that. But I kind of just wasn't thinking about it since a lot just happened. So on the outskirts, they're taking a short rest while the others are waiting for the potion, and eventually Babasundra finishes it and invites Valhyrie inside to complete the deal. So Valhyrie enters, and Babasundra presents her with this potion that's like green and mossy with like dark little sludgy blobs that kind of bob inside, and basically says that she has to drink this, and in return Babasundra will give her the information to heal her forest. Valhyrie actually offers her some of the purple drink, the sort of failed potion that they had gotten from the hags of the swamp, but Babasundra declines since she has her own magic and that potion's not really terribly useful in its form. So Valhyrie drinks her tincture, and to her it tastes kind of like moldy vegetation, like wet leaves that are like kind of rotting with like this irony metallic aftertaste. And she feels like her muscles kind of tense a little bit, and the veins in her hands turn black, kind of fading to green at the wrists, and they kind of throb a little bit and pulse before receding and going back to normal. And then she's fine. So she will find out the ramifications of this as they kind of level and as her beast form develops. But And this was a fun bit of lore that I got to make. Baba Sintra reveals that long ago in the Age of Discord, when the gods were kind of fighting over territory in South Kalios, Melispa, who is the goddess of wild nature, was wounded by a cursed sword. And this kind of corrupted her blood, and this blood magic kind of fell into the forest and turned it into the Forest of Rot, kind of incepting this kind of corruption within it. And so Melispa has been weakened for some time because this is a wound that has been cursed to never heal. This sword has a few names. I think I gave it like the Blighted Witchblade, the Earth Rot, the Blade of Asgamorum. And if she is to tell Tyrell about her deal, he would actually find that a little familiar, since his previous quest was to find a blade long ago in his backstory. But I've hinted that it's like a sword that Melispa's disciples have been searching for, hinting the Thorn Hands, which are her covenant. So, the first step would be to find this blade, as it is one of the many keys to kind of cleansing the forest. And then, long ago, before even the gods and goddesses walked this world, there were the great primordials who created the earth and the mountains and the forests and rivers that make up South Kalios and the material plane today. And their power, now dormant, would be able to cleanse kind of the forest of its rot. So in order to do so, they would need to find the great primordials who lie in the far reaches to the north, awaken them, get them to kind of grant the sword their power to cleanse the sword of the blood magic that it once wrought, and then after that, take the sword and plunge it into the heart of the oldest tree of the Forest of Rot, and that will cleanse the forest. So, it's a lot. It's no easy task, and it's probably something that they wouldn't be able to achieve until quite a later level, but now I can start weaving elements of it. I actually already know where the sword is going to be, but they can start weaving elements of it into their current story and their current quest. So, with that, their deal is fulfilled. Valkyrie exits, and the three musketeers come back after Cathan kind of speaks to Baba Sintra on their behalf that they are returning to set the deal, set things right. So, Cran once again enters the hut, and in order to keep his friends, or his newfound group, from being involved or for suffering consequences for his actions, he agrees to like a new deal, or to give up whatever it is, or to pay whatever price Baba Sintra names. So, once again, a little disappointed that the character didn't like offer something to like, you know, dig deep and come up with something that their character finds precious or that would be worth something like this. But basically what I had Baba Sintra do is she takes him up on his earlier offer to offer his memories. Basically, she will take his memories to do with as she wishes. Once again, purposefully vague, and possibly a very heavy price. But Cran agrees. And so Baba Sintra like swiftly leans forward, takes one of like her long kind of hooked nails and just like kind of pricks the side of his temple to draw a little bit of blood, to which she can weave certain magics, and then says the deal is complete and that he's now free to go. I'm not sure, Cran, Kate, he was like this close, I think, to swinging his axe at her. This close to starting a fight. I'm not sure if that was, like, if he didn't do it just because player, like, meta-wise, he knows attacking a hag is probably a bad idea. I'm kind of curious if how it would play out if he actually did, but he decides not to attack, and he walks out. And now that Avacindra is appeased, Cathan is able to help them and teleport them where they need to go. So they decide to go to Lovos, returning to the country of Prill to catch up with Ferney and hopefully Asmodeum. So he sends them there by way of teleportation circle, which he remarks the Grimknives will not like, but they are transported to Lovos and taken to Ferney's office, where they talk a little bit. They find out Asmodeum has gone away on business, but Basil sends him a message to reschedule their meeting to a few days back in Lovos. So they now have like a little bit of not quite downtime, but kind of free time in Lovos to to do any research, to do any like kind of small quests that maybe the Grimknives or Ferney have to offer. There's a few different ways I can go with it, so it's a bit of a rest from kind of the high impact, high pace story that they've kind of been going through so far. And that's where we ended the session. And at the end of the session, now that their excursions in the north have finished, they leveled up to 9. So this is unprecedented. I've never DM'd for such high levels before. 9, I know it doesn't sound super high, but like you can start doing some pretty crazy stuff. So that'll be exciting, and I can throw bigger and badder things at them. But that's session 57, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for notifications when I put out new videos. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!